Tsavorite in general is a far purer grain than emerald. It's actually, in my opinion, which is somewhat biased opinion, but I think most people would agree that Tsavorite is the purest grain of any gemstone.
Hey everyone, we are at the 2022 Tucson Gem and Mineral Show, and we have a very special guest on the show, Bruce Bridges of Bridges Tsavorite. If you have watched this channel for any amount of time at all, you know how much we love it here, and so we are super excited and honored to have him back.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it's a pleasure to be here as always.
All right. We got 2 boxes in the box. Oh my gosh. The color. Oh, wow. Tell us about this beautiful green stone.
Here we have 2 exceptional Tsavorites, both from Kamolo, which is now Lemshuko, Tanzania. Here we have an 8.44 carat cushion cut Tsavorite, and on this side we have an even larger 13.53 carat Tsavorite, and being above 10 carats it's in very, very rarefied area. On top of that it's a square cushion cut and is one of the rarest shapes one can find in Tsavorite.
Why is that so rare?
It's so rare because Tsavorite occurs under very high pressures and temperatures, so the rough material is generally very fractured, almost like broken shards of glass. Tsavorite rough is generally longer, thinner pieces.
The clarity is second to none.
Thank you. Yes, this particular gem is just completely clean.
So you mentioned these are from Tanzania.
Yes, indeed.
And that's where your father first discovered them?
That is indeed where my father, Campbell Bridges, first officially discovered Tsavorite, but he first actually came across Tsavorite in what was then Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, and that would have been in 1961. But he didn't have a chance to further develop the area, and it wasn't until 6 years later that he saw geology that was very similar to what he had seen those 6 years prior in Zimbabwe, and he said to himself, I'm going to go and prospect in this range of hills. And after his prospecting trek, he was indeed able to discover Tsavorite officially in Tanzania in 1967.
So the Tsavorites in the Bridges Tsavorite collection, those are from Tanzania?
From Tanzania and Kenya. Tsavorite only occurs in commercial quantities in 2 locations in the world. Unfortunately, we were forced out of Tanzania in 1970. The president of Tanzania at the time nationalized all the mines. Our Tsavorite mines right now are in Kenya. Those are the mines that I grew up in.
Prior to the naming of Tsavorite, it was obviously just known as green Grosler garnet. So will you kind of talk about what makes Tsavorite special and a little bit of that differentiation?
Sure. So there are many Grosler garnets. However, green Grosler garnet and Tsavorite, the main difference is Tsavorite's colored by chromium and vanadium, reasonably high amount of chromium and vanadium. So those are the chromophores, the coloring agents for Tsavorite. If we compare Tsavorite to other gemstones such as emerald, emerald's also colored by chromium and vanadium. Obviously emerald is green, Tsavorite is green, so what's the difference? Emerald's a beryl, Tsavorite's a garnet. They're both about the same hardness, they're about 7.5 on Mohs scale of hardness, so they're reasonably hard. However, as far as durability is concerned, Tsavorite's far more durable. Tsavorite is cubic and has no cleavage. On top of that, Tsavorite's a far brighter stone, so the 2 aspects of a gemstone that determine its brilliance will be a refractive index and dispersion. Tsavorite's refractive index is 1.74, is far higher than that of emerald, and Tsavorite also has double the dispersion of emerald at 0.028 as opposed to 0.014.
I mean, well, that kind of answers it. Like a lot of the Tsavorites that I've seen are relatively clean, especially when compared to emerald. Is that a function of how they grow, or? So
emerald is famous for Le Jardin in it, and it's basically a romantic way of saying it's included, right? So with that being said, Tsavorite, while it is a type 2 stone, which means that inclusions are acceptable in Tsavorite, Tsavorite is far cleaner in general than emerald. And the reason for that is because chromium binds far more readily with the garnet lattice of Tsavorite than it does in the beryl lattice of emerald.
Wow, I had no idea that was why. Let's talk about color. For high quality Tsavorite, you're really looking for a specific color.
You certainly are. Color is king in the colored gemstone industry, right? That's the first thing that anybody should be looking for. As far as Tsavorite's concerned, you don't want it to be too dark, where you get extinction in the stone. You don't want it to be too light. As far as hue is concerned, you want a Tsavorite to be a pure green, in my opinion, which is a somewhat biased opinion, but I think most people would agree that Tsavorite is the purest green of any gemstone, as opposed to, let's say, emerald has generally a stronger modifying yellow hue or blue hue. Your finest Tsavorite, you're looking for a pure green.
These Tsavorites are incredible. Do you have anything else of interest to show?
I do actually. Let me show you what I have here.
Oh my gosh. You're talking about how Tsavorite is perhaps the purest green gemstone. I look at this and I see pure orange.
Exactly.
You want to tell me what it is?
So that's a Spessartine Mandarin garnet. Americans generally say Spessartine. I'm super old school, so I grew up with Spessartine.
Okay.
And that's exactly what you want, is what you described. In the field, the goal is to look for Fanta orange. So you're looking for that Fanta orange color. That's actually from Nigeria.
Nigeria.
Africa has almost every colored gemstone under the sun.
That looks phenomenal next to each other. Both are garnets, obviously.
Yeah,
you have a liking for garnets.
Yes, indeed. So I'm known as kind of a garnet guy. This particular Mandarin is probably the finest gem I've seen above 20 carats in the last at least decade.
I probably would not have guessed Spessartine because of the clarity.
Exactly. Most of the time, the more orange it gets, the more included it gets, and you'll have a lot of manganese inclusions in there, etc. Okay. Here we have another box for you to take a look at, and I think that you'll like what we have in there as well.
Oh, the shape and the color. Another garnet?
No.
Oh, you tricked me. Spinel?
Indeed. So this is a Mahenge Spinel from Tanzania.
That's also on my bucket list.
In my opinion, the finest red spinels come from Tanzania. This material is just extraordinarily rare. Certainly is one of the hottest colored gemstones in the world right now. The demand for it is just through the roof.
That is stunning. Oh my gosh, that color, it's just so juicy looking. Like, it is so pretty.
Spinel is just a fantastic stone. Even though prices have gone up exponentially in recent years, I still feel highly undervalued. At least in my personal opinion, the finest red spinel I've seen in my life trumps the finest ruby I've seen in my life.
Yeah. Well, that's a big statement.
Yeah, and that ruby sells for many multiples of what that spinel would sell for.
I feel like Tsavorite, Spinel, like some of your greatest gem loves they're kind of undervalued. I feel like Tsavorite has not gotten its proper day yet.
I would 100% agree. Obviously, we're doing our best to bring up the public awareness for Tsavorite, but emerald has about a 3,000-year head start on us, right? So that's a lot of marketing and publicity to catch up on.
So a lot of gems on the market undergo certain treatments or enhancements. Are any of these treated?
No, certainly not. I actually don't deal in any treated gemstones. There is no known treatment for Tsavorite. They're all 100% natural. If you can imagine that these were created under the ground, and when you mine these materials, all you have to do is cut them to illustrate and bring out their pure beauty. That really is pretty amazing to me when you consider how many other gemstones out there. There's a myriad of treatments involved in order to get them to be what you see.
So these gems are obviously stunning, beautiful, relatively large, but as we're in Tucson, I understand that there's a pretty spectacular Tsavorite here in town.
There is indeed a line of Merilani, and it's 116.76 carat square cushion cut Tsavorite. That's the largest square cushion cut Tsavorite in history. And that particular gemstone was donated to the Smithsonian and has been on loan to the Alfie Norville Gem and Mineral Museum here in Tucson for the last year. That stone was mined in late 2017.
Oh,
and
recently.
Fairly recently, and it came from Merilani, Tanzania, and it took us about 6 months to cut the gem from start to finish. We really used a novel method of cutting a colored gemstone where we copied a lot of what they do in the diamond industry to cut large diamonds, where we 3D mapped the stone. We created full CAD designs, and then on top of that, we had Viktor Tuzlakov cut that gem. Viktor Tuzlakov is probably the finest large colored gemstone cutter in the world. It really was a large team effort in order to get that stone from rough to finished product.
What a fun project. What did the rough look like?
So the rough was almost 300 carats. The transparency was just fantastic.
What is that like to hear that somebody has found a piece of rough like that?
Well, it's fantastic. I mean, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to see something like that. But then once you're processing it, I have to say it's an extremely nerve-wracking experience as well, because you make one mistake, you never know. Maybe the lap, which is the wheel that you cut on, maybe it heats up an internal fluid inclusion that you missed under the microscope, and that expands and the whole piece shatters. Victor's very much in the metaphysical. I remember we had to take almost a week off one time because Mars and the Earth weren't in alignment and they were in conflict. Yeah. And he said, look, if we cut this week, there's going to be something bad that happens, so we have to take the time off. Certainly very stressful for Victor.
Wow. Well, apparently he got the job done.
He did.
Where is it off to next?
The Smithsonian.
And
so they'll keep it forever.
Does that make you a little sad?
It does make me a little sad, but if we look at the name for that stone, so the name for that stone is the Lion of Merlani. And the reason it's named that is in honor of my father, because my father was known as the Lion, right? So we named it for him, and it will always be on display in what is probably the most well-traveled and one of the most well-respected museums in the world. So you'll have the world that will be able to enjoy his discovery.
Well, that is beautiful. I'm very glad that more people will be able to see that.
Thank you.
So on our channel, we usually do a closer look. So we take all the specimens and minerals and gems that we have on the table, and we decide our favorite, essentially, that we want the audience to take a closer look at.
Okay.
I have to do the larger square cushion cut Tsavorite. I mean, that one is just phenomenal. So take a closer look at that Tsavorite. I hope that you guys were able to see a little bit of a taste of why we love Tsavorite and other garnets and spinels so much. We're really thankful that you brought them here and that you took the time to film with us.
Well, thank you very much for having me as always, and it's always a pleasure to be here.
If you all want to learn more about my favorite gemstone, Tsavorite, or any other gemstone, go to our new website, gemstones.com, where you can read articles, watch videos about all the gems you know and love. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss out on any of our future videos. Thanks for watching.